Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise Lali-Ho League. We're in the quarterfinals tonight with EizanTayama versus PeasantsOMFG. My name is Rex Raoul, and I am joined in the commentary booth by Microkorgs to call this action. Microkorgs, what are you hoping to see in this race tonight?
Well, I'm hoping to see really high-level play from two excellent runners, and one of these runners, as we can tell from the Dwarven indicator, is up 1-0 in this best of three. So that means that other runner, EizanTayama, who lost the race last night, his back is up against the wall, and I'm wondering what tricks he might try to pull out of his back pocket to give himself a victory and to avoid being eliminated from this tournament so deep into this Lali-Ho League. So I'm looking very much forward to two high-level runs from both of these runners.
Absolutely. And if somebody is, as they're back against the wall, do you think that might be an opportunity to see somebody gamble a little bit more, make some riskier plays than we might see otherwise? Or do you think it's just better to, especially when you're at this level of play, to make it to the finals or the quarterfinals of such a big tournament like this, to just say, take a deep breath. Let me know. I know what my procedure is to get through this. Let me just make sure I execute properly.
I mean, that is the decision that all runners must face. We have the two random objectives. One of them is a character objective, and if we do not see that Tella in any of those first easy early checks that most runners tend to hit, both above ground, underground, and on the lunar dais, will we see Eizan take an early gamble at Giant, which is often a check that most runners will avoid unless they are feeling desperate or unless the seed simply funnels them that way. So that's a possibility. We'll see what Eizan does as the seed unfolds.
Yeah, and speaking of the Giant, the other random objective we have tonight is a boss hunt, and there's two bosses on that Giant. That means I think the gamble becomes a little bit more of a reality. Again, it's going to depend on these earlier checks that you mentioned. If we see that flag, if we see that Tella earlier, then there's less of an incentive to do a risky gamble like that on the Giant. But yeah, and remember, like all the races in the Lali-Ho League, we require 4 out of 5 of the objectives to be completed. You don't need to do all of them.
Yep, definitely allows for some really interesting divergence. And speaking of which, if anyone did not catch their first race, even though if you're here, you know the result, it's still worth watching. Really great race. We had significant divergence and potential paths to victory from both players opening up. And ultimately, last time, Peasants was victorious, ran a great race, and is up 1-0. As we see both runners kind of going through their menus, or at least Peasants showing us his naming scheme for tonight, and looks like they are about ready to get going.
It looks like it's going to be Yang as the starting character for our runners tonight. Yang is somebody that, if you're lucky enough, can find the elemental claws, can do some decent damage early, but really, if you want him to do consistent damage, needs to get levels. And it looks like it's going to be Kane joining him here. That's a pretty good character overall, and an Earth Crystal means we've got access to a lot more treasures. We got 2 characters that we can check. Probably not right away with this party, but what was that, like 60,000 money?
Cut that in half. I think I saw 33. It might be 38.
Oh, wow.
Yep, definitely a low roll. The money on these flags can roll anywhere from 20,000 to 80,000, so that is decidedly on the low roll side of it. One of the items, however, was a heroine robe that they got. That is always a great item to see early if we can find one of the characters, a female character, who can use that. So I think they'd be pretty happy to see an early Rosa, that heroine robe, really turning Rosa from mage-centric to more of a frontline fighter.
I'll agree with you there. And yeah, I must have just misread that as it came along, because I thought it said 60-something, but 30-something is a lot less money. And when you can't sell items for gold, as we can't in these brackets flags, then what you're able to purchase, especially at the beginning of a seed, is very limited. When you get bosses and other things, other battles completed, you do get money for those, however.
And here we go. We get to play early our favorite game, Raid That Treasury.
That seems like a pretty decent treasury to start off our expedition with. Nothing like super broken, but a lot of really useful stuff in there. The power robe, I think, is like one of the best things that we got on this for sure. But a dancing dagger is really nice, and ogre axe for Kane is also a very nice pickup.
Yep, that Kane is absolutely kitted. Ogre axe, Zeus gauntlets, power robe. Kane dip into that dressing room and come out kind of supercharged. Not quite a Superman transformation, but pretty close for the early game. Both runners are going to be very happy, and I think we'll be very confident going into the early checks.
Yeah, I think especially with these two starting characters, that was a really good. I think there was a life staff in there, but it really wasn't much for magic users. It was really more for the melee fighters. Depending on who's up here on Mount Hobbs, that dancing dagger that was found in there could end up being useful as well. A very good item for the early part of the game.
That's true. Yep, any character that can use it can immediately start pumping out like 200 to 400 damage-ish, or somewhere in that range without any levels, and makes them a useful part of the team for these early fights. It doesn't last too long in terms of being useful, but yeah, for the first maybe 3 or 4 checks on the overworld, you enjoy having that.
Looks like Peasants is going to make use of that dancing dagger with Kane at the start. Since he's still really low level at this point, this might be a way for him to do more consistent damage and give that Zeus gauntlet and power robe to Yang, make them both a little bit more valuable, at least at the beginning part of this run.
Yeah, that's true. Yang benefits from levels, Yang benefits from strength, and both runners are benefiting from not seeing Valvalis in a more difficult spot, and they have Kane. Kane can jump up and do his vanilla job of disrupting the tornado form to allow the other characters to do the most damage they can.
And we have Water Hag. EizanTayama finds that at the bottom of the Antlion Cave. So a much easier fight there, but it is kind of long for that spot since you have to go through some of this text. Meanwhile, Peasants finding, I believe that's Porum, at the top of Mount Hobbs. Wait, that might be Palom with that.
Yep.
With these ballots, it's tough for me sometimes.
Yep, still got that reddish cape. That is a Palom ready to go. Always great to get Palom the early levels. He gets that Ice 2 from his first fight, and we'll get Lit 2 and Fire 2 from the subsequent fight. And we have another character check coming right up. We'll see if the runners can knock off that number 4 objective, get Tella, or perhaps, yeah, in a situation like this, Tella's a great character, a useful character, but do you want to get the objective right away, or are you hoping more for a superpower like an Edge or a Fu? I'm always kind of torn when I see that.
Well, I think with a character especially with a character like Tella, his kind of utility purpose, I think, is really good, especially early on. Access to that exit spell early is really nice. So with him being the character check, I'd like to get him early personally.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and we're about to find out. Eizan is parking the airship just off the edge of the desert and heading into the desert town, and we're about to see who's in that bed.
That is a Sid. We got more physical characters joining the party here with Sid, and Peasants with its second heroine robe in Antlion Cave. So even if we get these Porum or Rosa that can use that, or Rydia, kind of inclined to make them more physical attackers with those heroine robes in the inventory as well.
Yeah, aside from that Palom, this is shaping up to be a pretty bruising melee team with lots of options for weapons and gears and gear. As with that early loot from the treasury, I don't think we're going to see the runners do too much extra looting, especially considering, as you mentioned, one of the big changes here is that flag SL0, where you cannot, selling things is basically just a way to get them out of your inventory. You get no cash for them.
And both of the runners in a chest in Antlion Cave picked up a poison axe. So we've got both the ogre axe and the poison axe in our inventories, and so both Kane and Sid can be outfitted with a pretty decent weapon for the first part of the scene.
You have those seeds where you're struggling to find your way through the early fights and get the power snowball rolling, and our runners are not having that issue here tonight. think they could go to any overworld check they want right now and not be too scared of it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Maybe if it was a nasty D-Lunars in the back attack on Mount Ordeals is about the scariest that I can think of for this party makeup. But overall, I think you're right. This is a pretty well-suited party for taking out the overworld. Now, Peasant's picking up his Stid, and we will have the same party on both of our sides now.
Yeah, pretty much simultaneously, rounding out their current 4-person party. These flags allow for the full 5-person party to form, so we'll see if their parties stay identical throughout the entirety of the seed. Runners at this level are usually thinking, even this early on, about who they want to take with them to the final boss of Romus at the end. So Sid is always a great choice for an endgame anchor because there are a few different pieces of equipment that will let Sid get to high levels but still serve his purpose as anchoring your endgame team. So we'll see if Sid lasts that long.
Yeah, and while anchoring, he can either be a chemist if you're able to get some good items to use, or can frankly still do a decent amount of damage while having a low agility. So he's really useful in that capacity. And I really like him in that sort of role. We see some outfitting of the characters right now. But yeah, that's going to be really interesting when they have to decide who do they keep, who do they want to ditch when they see characters later on. We only have 4 now. But I think most of the time you're going to see more than 5 characters, and you're going to have to make a decision at some point who to keep and who to let go. Are you okay taking the team that you've got all the way through the rest of the seed, or do you want to make an upgrade like, oh, wait, now I've got Rosa, but she's only level or at her base level. Do I want to take her now and grow her up for a few fights and then have that for the end? Or am I happy enough with what I've got right now? Ooh, but that's Plague.
Yep, Objective 5 available to the runners on the overworld with a team that is going to have no problem handling it. So, yep, both runners on even footing here, about to take the fight at nearly identical times.
Yeah, having both of the axes that we found, plus all that, the power robe, the Zeus gauntlet, and now the level 2 elemental spells from Palom, you got a lot to do, even if you're not out Palom with that. Now that is one way to... Basically, EizanTayama is ensuring safety through this fight, because if you knock out one of your character, revive him with a life potion, Plague sees that one of your characters doesn't have the count, and so re-ups the count, but it hits everybody, and so you get to start from 10 again, giving just enough time to get through the fight. Just well played there by EizanTayama, knowing exactly the mechanics to get through it.
Yeah, that was very good.
Through it without too much of an issue either.
Plague at this spot can definitely be tricky if you don't have the damage and you have to juggle that. And Eisen kind of made use of that mechanic that you described, and Peasants, I think, just blasted right through. And they were rewarded with a crystal sword, pretty much the best weapon in the game, but you do need a Cecil to wield it. So we were talking about party makeup. Cecil's now a 100% definite. Not that he, under these flags, he pretty much is, but that just cements it. You see a Cecil, there's no hesitation.
Absolutely. Definitely going to be the character that people want right now with that crystal sword in the inventory. Because there's no in other flag sets, you could be okay with not keeping Cecil because you could sell that crystal sword, but in this, you're selling it for 0, so you might as well have Cecil swing it if you can.
Yeah, that's for sure. Unfortunately for our runners, though, just Iridia here. She can wear that heron robe, but usually not the first person you think of. I don't think we've seen a dragon whip, which is one of her better weapons. You could always put a bow on her with that, but this party is not desperate for the DPS.
Right, and we also haven't found any of the great summons, at least not that I've noticed. We haven't seen like Sylph or a Leviathan summon or anything like that. So her usefulness isn't that strong right now. Depending on how much looting our runners do, they might find something that's good for her, but right now this is more about getting through the checks and see what the key item is behind this Dark Elf here in the second fight in Varian.
I would say there's also a good chance that both runners use this Rydia as their early anchor, because as you said, we haven't seen a huge summon. I'd be surprised if either one heads over to Mount Hobbs, where you can pick up a free summon. Again, just because the power output from the other characters is going to be great. Palom is learning his level 2s. He's going to have Virus before they know it, and then eventually Quake, and you don't perhaps need that other Black Mage.
Yeah, base level Rydia is going to be an excellent anchor, as long as you put in the work to make sure that she stays knocked out throughout the entire run.
Well, we got another character check coming up. Yeah.
This is one that you're going to have to at least face check to see if it is that Tella, right?
Yes, absolutely. The Tella. I mean, I as much as that objective is there, I'd also be heavily rooting for the Cecil, of course.
Yeah, I suppose so. And other characters, like if it's Fusia, you're probably going through it too if you check it early enough. Looks like Peasant's not going to check it quite yet. Going to go to Mount Ordeals first. With having a Tella objective and with that Crystal Sword in hand, completing Mount Ordeals will make sure that Tella knows all his spells and will transform Cecil into a paladin. So it's just going to be pretty useful overall. Peasant's also fighting a Sylph summon on the route up Mount Ordeals. That might make me lean towards wanting to actually use Rydia, but I can still see the option of keeping her knocked out. I think it's going to be runner's preference.
Yeah, Sylph is handy, of course, because it not only deals damage, but it takes that damage and then distributes it to your party as healing, and we do not have a white mage yet. And as we said with that Sid, I'd feel comfortable letting Rydia get levels, not committing her to be the anchor. We'll see what decisions the runners make as they go ahead. I don't think Peasants did not apply the Sylph yet, and looks like Peasants is knocking down Rydia, so going the anchor route, at least for now.
And within Free Enterprise, there are a number of fights that we consider to be free fights, because for one, they either have a script that knocks them out really quickly, or they're vulnerable to a bunch of different status effects. This Dark Imps fight here on Mount Ordeals is one of them. We also saw another one earlier in that Water Hag fight in Antlion Cave. So in general, like, our runners would rather see more difficult bosses in these easier overworld spots, so that they can see these free bosses like on the moon or something like that. But in this case, we're starting to run out of we're running through the free fights pretty early.
We are. Eizan making different decisions about Rydia. Eizan did not stop at the same chest and pick up the Sylph. However, Eizan did put the Heron Robe on Rydia, and looks like is going to let her do some damage. You notice it also allowed her to go first. The Heron Robe is a huge boost to agility. So Rydia gets first turn, launches a Gaia Drum, great use of an AoE J item to take out, to do a bunch of damage, and then it's just going to be mop-up time on these imps.
Yeah, it's one of the interesting things about the Heron Robe. Even on like a white mage, it does knock down the magic stat pretty harshly. So a white mage with a Heroine Robe isn't going to be able to heal as well as she could with that not equipped. However, it can usually be used to make sure that she goes first, and that can be nice to get an early Berserk or Blink or something up really fast. And so it's still very useful, even if you want to have the equippy do spells in battle.
You mean you don't like seeing single-digit Cure 2s go out?
No, it's not really the best.
No, it is not. But yeah, your point for just getting those utility spells out first makes a lot of sense. We'll see who awaits our runners in the mirror room fight here and what item they get. We'll see if maybe, with the Plague out of the way, only D-Mist remains as potential boss hunt. D-Mist gates one key item check, not a guaranteed key item. So we'll see if D-Mist plays a factor.
And we haven't gotten underground access yet. We still have that Earth Crystal to check. There's the Luca key, so we either have to hunt for the D-Mist, as you mentioned, or climb the Tower of Zot. But the Tower of Zot is intriguing because that's more opportunities to find either Cecil or Tella, because there's 2 character checks up at the top of the tower.
Yeah, unless... Have we seen either of the runners check either Mist Cave or Waterfall yet? If they have, I missed it.
I don't believe either of the runners have. So they can definitely face check those places to see if they find D-Mist. But as of yet, we don't know whether or not this is a Magma Seed or a Hook Seed. I guess you could also go through the package cutscene to see if that's where D-Mist is, and get your underground access that way. That would be a really trolly scene.
Yeah, especially if that was a magma key and maybe Zot gives Hook, and then that would definitely be a major divergence if we were lucky enough for the rando to give us that tonight.
Now, EizanTayama has defeated Mylon and friends as Peasants is walking out of Mount Ordeals. Mount Ordeal is one of those places that even if you have access to the exit spell, you can't use it there. You always have to walk out of that.
It's always fun. It's much more fun to walk out after completing it rather than when you have to do the walk of shame because maybe there's a back attack Val that sends you back down the mountain looking for strength. So, but it looks like Peasants is skipping the overworld boss checks and maybe going right up Zot.
Yeah, and still hasn't checked that package either. Might be at that situation where it's like, I don't want to go through the cutscene for the package because it's long. It is like there's 2 cutscenes, a boss fight, and everything, and there's no key item check, just the character. So you might want to, like, Peasants might be thinking like, I just don't want to check this. So if that's where it is, I might just end up losing this race because of it. On the other hand, Eizan hasn't checked it either, so we'll see.
Peasants picking up a lightsaber, normally a great thing to find, but of course we already have a crystal sword, which is basically an order or 2 of magnitude above that, so not as exciting, especially since you can't sell it. If we do happen to find an edge, it does make a pretty great dart, though.
But that begs the question, if edge is found, do you take an edge? I don't think we've found a lot of ninja weapons, and we've got a lot of characters who can do physical damage already.
Yeah, I have a hard time turning down an edge early, especially, there's a good chance that our runners will find sirens in shops, and even though they maybe don't have a ton of money, there's plenty of opportunities to earn money from fights. You just can't sell the loot. But it is nice, I think, sometimes to have the option to steal some of your consumables with edge.
It looks like we see Peasants fighting Antlion in the vanilla Mega Sisters spot. So we do have, we still haven't found that D-Mist, but this is one that's would be scarier because of the nasty counters. But both Yang and Kane have ways to get around that counter. Both jump and power don't trigger the counter attack from Antlion, so the only person who's actually using the fight attack in this battle is Sid, and so then that makes the counters a lot more manageable.
Yep, Peasants not giving the counters any respect here, willing to eat them from time to time, and the fact that Palom has virus at this point is pretty useful. I think we're basically 1 jump or 1 virus away from this fight being over.
Yeah, it's interesting because even at the levels that we're at right now, if more of the characters had to fight and eat those counters, we don't have a good way of healing at this time. So it could become a lot more dangerous in that situation. By being able to avoid a lot of them, plus the power of virus, it makes it a lot easier, and Peasants get through there with no problem. Eizan also notably did not check the package, and we still haven't found those bosses. We haven't seen anybody check the bosses in those things, but we do see a character that's pretty important here.
That's our Tella. That's objective 4. Both runners are going to have 2 out of the 4 required objectives complete after they, assuming they can get through Zot, which I think they'll be able to. And we see a duplicate Palom in the second spot. Under this flag set, you cannot have duplicate characters, so Tella is the only option here. We'll see if Peasants chooses to take the Tella or just take the lit up objective 4 and get out of Zot.
Yeah, and decides to change out Rydia for Atella. That makes sense. Peasants hadn't been investing in Rydia at all, and Tella's got his full spell list at this point. I think he's a lot more useful at this point. And we see in the vanilla Valvulus fight, we've got the dolls, Cal and Brayna.
And now Peasants can sell that Oh, never mind.
Yeah, can sell it for 0.
Come on, Palom, you can do better than that.
Still a little bit shy of having Quake access. So we see the virus being used, and we see the HP ran out text. Not something you see too often.
Wonder if we're going to see, here comes the big doll. So this boss starts with 6 small dolls, and if you only leave one color of doll up and you don't take them out right away, they form the big doll. We'll see if Calbrena gets her big glance hit in.
Yeah, glance is definitely the scariest thing that the big doll can do. This is now a war of attrition. I think getting Yang here hit with the glance is a good sign for Peasants. And yeah, Calbrena goes down. Yeah. And so now this is going to get a couple of things. Peasants is going to be transported back to Baron, is going to get a key item reveal, and if he finds Rosa, she will know the exit spell.
And all of us might be rooting for this not to be Hook or Magma, because then that would confirm that there is a Demas somewhere out there, but I anticipate one of those two being handed to us right now. And I was wrong. It's a Twin Harp. Another required. This is going to lead them to objective 2, break the Dark Elf spell. The Twin Harp, another key item check, and both runners are going to have 3 objectives done right around the half-hour mark.
Yeah, this is pretty out there. And now it's time. Looks like this is when Peasants wanted to route in his package check. So we're going to see here, and it's Fusia. So the question is, how much do you value Fusia? Do you want to get through it? And it looks like it's not a quick reset for Peasants. So we're going to go through this cutscene.
Fu is going to be brought onto the team. I'm wondering, yeah, the Zot wasn't difficult for Peasants, and Eizan's getting through it pretty well himself. But I'm wondering if you think to yourself, oh, I wonder if my opponent got this Fu before Zot. If he has Quake, it makes that Dolls fight a little quicker. But I don't think it's too major at this point.
And the question is going to be, what party member does Peasants get rid of? Does he upgrade the Tella into the Fusia? At this point, Fusia is almost certainly not full power. So it's going to be a few more bosses before he's going to be at full power, because every boss that you defeat under this flag set will add 100 HP and 3 more spells to Fusia's list, starting at, I believe, 500 and then ending at 1900.
Yeah. I'm thinking that we might see the kid get dropped. Peasants might think, well, this Fu might not have Quake yet, but he's going to have it soon. He might have Nuke pretty soon, and maybe if that Tell is going to remain as the anchor. But he's definitely has options. There's a couple, I think, really good choices for that Fu to replace.
Yeah, I think there's like 3 or maybe even 4 characters who could be ditched for the Fusia. It's going to be interesting. One thing to note, the Twin Harp objective that's going to be coming up pretty shortly here is one thing that having a lot of physical attackers is going to be useful for, because that spot has very high magic defense.
Over on Eizen's side, we see the use of Toad to prevent the big doll. So good timing there. And the Toad was applied right as the virus was sapping that center red doll. So That was a nice bit of timing there on Eisen's part.
Yeah, really interesting quirk with the dolls that the blue dolls in the back are susceptible to Toad, but the red dolls in front, which have much less HP, are not susceptible to it. So, but that is a way to avoid that big doll too. So, well played by Eisen.
And Peasants did choose to get rid of the Quake Kid and instead onboard the Quake older gentleman onto the team, and finding some really useful things, especially Starveils here in the shop. Let's see what Fu has exit already. Yeah, Fu is not too far away from full power.
I suppose by completing both the Tower of Zot and the Mount Ordeals, that's a lot of bosses just between those two. So Peasant's going to be heading to Cave Magnus right behind Eisen, who just went straight there, has not checked that package yet, has no food.
You mentioned the need for melee fighters because of the high magic resistance of the spot, but one of the few exceptions is if that Fu happens to have Nuke already. Nuke often one-shots or at least severely weakens bosses at this spot. So if Peasants is fortunate enough that Fu knows Nuke already, that could speed this up a little bit.
Yeah, Nuke is pretty strong. Well, put it that way. It's pretty strong.
It packs a punch.
But with some menuing and everything there, it looks like Peasants is now in the lead in this cave. It is our runners are very close right now in the whole thing, and with this being their third objective, they're only going to need one more objective in order to get the crystal.
Yeah, looking at those, we either have the Forge objective, have Coco Forge Legend Sword with Adamant, which needs those two things mentioned, the Legend Sword and the Adamant Rock, or the Pinktail, which also requires two things, the Hook and the Pinktail. So we're still 2 key items away from Go Mode. We'll see if Cave Magnus is generous enough to hand our runners one of them.
And right before we do that, we are going to get this fight here at the bottom of Cave Magnus, in which case we get a little bit of an Easter egg. We get to see the Twin Harp music, because that music that Edward plays to transform the Dark Elf is randomized, and so we are going to once this cutscene is over, we're going to be quiet for a little bit and let y'all enjoy a little bit of DJ Spoony B's rockin' tunes.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. One of the best parts of any run. At least any run that it actually happens in. So, yeah, hope you all enjoy it.
Well, turns out Cave Magnus did generously hand our runners both underground access and one of those required key items for Objective 3, as we heard a new song made by one of the devs, Lamity. Great job on that. Looks like we're seeing its Super Mario Galaxy song.
That was pretty sweet. Always great when we get to hear something brand new. And yeah, that hook, like on the one hand, you think, oh man, now it's a hook seed. I've got to deal with that. But on the other hand, that's half of objective number 3. This might be just more of this seed dishing out these objectives as quickly as possible. If the next thing we find is the pink tail, maybe in the Feymark or something, this could end up being a really fast seed.
We might be setting a record here tonight. We are getting a little ahead of ourselves. That pink tail could still be buried. Both parts of the forge could be buried somewhere, but you're absolutely right. I mean, we're down to one check, maybe making the difference. And let's say if it's not in the freebie chest, then the routing that our runners take underground could really make the difference in the results of this seed. Both runners now, I think, peeking for that D-Mist and finding 3 water hags. What are we seeing there, Rex?
That would be the gauntlet. In vanilla Final Fantasy IV, when you go to Fabul for the first time and defend it, you get a battle against like 5 little kind of mini fights there. In this flag set, we have an alternative gauntlet. So you don't fight those same fights that you'd fight there. Instead, you fight random encounters from the area that's there. So this would have been 5 random encounters from the waterfall area.
I think it would be a fun trivia contest because my guess is that's probably the least fought alt gauntlet that we have, just because it's usually not a required thing to do. And I'm pretty confident in knowing what fights are coming up on each alt gauntlet. I don't think I could name those.
I think it's going to be a lot of alligators. I think there's a red flan enemy in there. I think that's kind of what you see in that area.
Like a slime type?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
I believe the red one. There might be zombies in that one. Maybe not. I don't know. Because like most of the fish and water type ones are in the first part of the like the first cave, because you know that dungeon is split into like 2 different caves. Yeah, I haven't done it too, but man, that is a nice shop in Evan. Sirens and backs.
Very limited inventory, but you see 2 things that all runners love to see: sirens for level gaining, Bacchus wines, letting fighters berserk themselves without the need of a white mage. So yeah, great find there.
Let's just see a samurai bow for sale. If you're desperate for a bow and arrow, samurai bow is one of the best that you're going to be able to buy. Good strength boost. And so if you want to deal damage with bow and arrows and you're not lucky enough to find an Artemis bow, that samurai bow is going to do you really good. But
well, no crystal sword wielder here. Yep.
Yeah, duplicate cane and Magus Sisters of the Rubicon spot.
So that's a spot. They are mage types. We haven't seen we've seen just about every axe. We have not seen the rune axe, which would do, at least I haven't seen it, which would do some great damage. But having access to Quake, and I think both runners will, one in the form of Palom and one in the form of Fu. Quake does great AoE damage to the 3 sisters, especially since the middle one gets walled up.
Yeah, absolutely. That wall being one of the biggest obstacles in the Magus Sisters fight, especially in a spot like this Rubicon spot that has a lot of HP. Having a spell that can get around that that wall is really nice. And we could have had another option if we kept Rydia and that Sylph summon. That's another way to get the summons get past the wall as well. So you've got a couple of options to do it, but having access to Quake is going to be one of the most effective.
See Eizan going backtracking a little bit, getting some loot, another light sword. We saw ninja hat, dragoon armor, some good pickups there.
I was wondering if our runners were going to take on a little bit more looting in this Cave Evelyn. It's one that has a pretty high, I don't know the right word to talk about it, like frequency of better items in Evelyn Cave compared to some of the other places like Antline that we've been earlier. So it's an opportunity to possibly outfit our characters better, but we've also had some pretty good stuff already. So it doesn't really surprise me that one of the runners chose to do some extra looting in this and one of the runners didn't. So
yeah, it also doesn't surprise me the one with Fu is the one who chose not to do so much looting. Once you have a Fu with all those
that's a good point too. And here's another one of those free fights that we've been talking about. The officer-soldier fight here in the vanilla King Queen Evelyn spot, and yet another free fight will go down without too much problem for our runners.
No problem for our runners. Problem for Yang, though. It's funny. You don't often think of those soldiers as doing damage, but this is one of those high attack spots. And despite it being a free fight and a quick fight, Yang and Tella did pay the price.
Yeah, but fortunately for Yang, it doesn't really matter either way because there's no HP and you get a free heal right before this next fight. So don't really have to worry about it too much because of that.
Looks like Peasants feeling confident. No need to backtrack and save. As you said, he'll get fully healed up, HP, MP, all that, getting his party set up to take on the three sisters. Yep, power shirt going on Sid. Yeah, very strong Sid right now. Getting back road. You want to talk about why? I think Peasants is gonna. Okay. Not just back rowing, but actually using the arrows.
Yeah, there's two things going on here. That adding of the bow and arrow means that any fight attacks done with the bow and arrow are considered long range or back row, and so that means it'll be full damage to the enemies despite the fact that Sid is in the back row of the party. Now, the weird thing about Final Fantasy IV is if you unequip the bow, that flag that was set that said that you could do damage from long range doesn't wear off. So even when he switches back to the poison axe, he can still deal full damage from the back row and also to back row enemies. So that's just going to be really useful overall.
And then Peasants was quick, but I assume, were those mute arrows that he put on, or was it something else?
Yes, they were indeed mute arrows.
Yep, so they're going to hit the weakness of these mage types.
Yeah, mute arrows getting 4 times damage to mage type enemies, and Mega Sisters are mages. But yeah, the unfortunate side is the only bow that he had access to was the Great Bow, which I often mention is not that great.
It's false advertising, you're telling us.
It absolutely is false It's flagrant false advertising is what it is.
How do they get away with that?
Yeah, well, the marketers in like Kaipo or whatever place sells them is pretty good. Or maybe it's Fagul, I don't know. It's pretty early on though. It's not a late game bow, that's for sure.
Peasant Sid did just drink some Bacchus wine to kind of get that Great Bow firing as fast as possible, and the hit point total of that Sid able to withstand a virus, which often will one-shot characters. This is not the highest magic spot in the game, and Peasants is very close to being through this fight.
Yeah, the magic kind of tamed because this is where Rubicant is normally fought, and if the magic stat was too high there, then the counter fire 2s that Rubicant does to almost anything would just be brutal. So it's a bit tempered here.
Meanwhile, Eizan is entering his Magic Sisters fight, not too far behind. We'll see how he manages to do this. I imagine that Palom, I didn't see the menu, but I assume we're about to see, and here it is, the Quake coming out, hitting all 3 sisters for a few thousand damage each. Always great to see that happen.
Yeah, between the mute arrows and the Quake being available for both of our runners, makes it so it's not, this isn't too scary a fight. And especially because we've had to do a couple extra dungeons, the Tower of Zot, the Cave Magnus, so we've got that much more experience on our party. This isn't an early hook seed like we see sometimes in Free Enterprise.
Nope, not one of those scary hooks. Speaking of not scary, Peasants peaked the top of tower boss, DKC. That's actually a pretty tame spot for DKC. I think he does maybe in the 300s for his Dark Waves up there, so that is an option if they don't see the tower key and they want to make that play. Both these teams will have no problem getting through that.
Yeah, that's one of those places where it's got a lot of HP, but its stats aren't very good in the vanilla Dr. Luge spot. But it's to the Fey March that Peasants heads to first in the underground. There is the chest, the vanilla rat tail chest, which is a potential key item check that you don't need to fight any bosses for. And then I imagine we'll see probably a little bit of shop checks and the boss checks down here too to see what we'd be up against if we have to fight these. I don't imagine they will be fought at this time, but that knowledge is pretty important.
We could be a second away from go mode. Let's see. Nope, ninja shirt. So not a key item. A little bit of a womp there, especially with no edge in the party and no ability to sell that high-valued item. So we'll see where he goes next to again hunt down. Really only needs one key item if he can hit on that pink tail, and that is go mode. And as you said, we're about to see the peak of the bosses, and we'll see if either of them are free, and if Peasants is willing to take them on. Oh, well, that's interesting.
Ooh, that is D-Mist in the Leviathan spot.
So we have no boss hunts left. We know where D-Mist is. Now the question is, when would you like to take on a D-Mist with lots of HP? Having food that nukes is a big plus there, but still not something you're going to rush to do.
That D-Mist is going to be really fast, really strong, lots of hit points. I wouldn't want to take care of it unless I had to, but you know, that's the sort of gamble that we might see Eizan take on, being down one game in this best of 3.
Yep, and if you're new to Free Enterprise under these flags, when you beat that boss in that spot, you get a free key item check, but then you also can return to Miss Village, visit Rydia's mother, and she will give you a key item check, so that is why there is extra value, why we refer to it as the bonus round, but in a high hit point spot, it is a bit of a time sink.
Yeah, not only a high hit point spot, but one of the strongest physical attack spots in the game, and D-Mist does a lot of physical attacks.
While Eizan retraces Peasant steps down the Fey March, we see, I believe this is going to be the Elements fight. I caught out of the corner of my eye. It looked like a red sprite, and we've seen the D-Imps already, so I believe that is the Mylon sprite as part of the Elements here. And there they are.
I think we're going to see some dancing Elements here. One of the best fights to get in this spot, because you get to see all of them dancing together.
One of them can even do a spin.
Not all sprites were created equal. That is definitely true. Some of them can spin, some of them cannot.
Listen, if you're forming a dance crew, you want Mylon Z. We know that now.
Yeah, that's true. That is absolutely true. Definitely one of these fights that Nuke's just going to get through so quickly. You're only going to see the first 2 elements in this, because you bypass the range, which triggers a counter to get into the second 2 things. Final Fantasy IV is kind of weird. All you know is you do enough damage fast, and in one shot like that, it'll go down.
Speaking of fast, here's an edge, and there goes Sid, so replacing a slow character with a fast character, and Tella is the confirmed anchor at this point. So, new character pickup. Parties are diverging.
Yeah, now I haven't been checking all of the things that have been opened, but yeah, it looks like that dancing dagger is going to be what Peasants is going to be used on that Sid right now. So not a super strong weapon. Like, we don't see like long swords or ninja swords here, but still values that kind of utility. Like, Edge can do a lot of damage, but he also has the ninja spells. He has the ability to dart. He has the ability to steal. He's just got a lot more that he can do than Sid can do, just in general.
Yeah, and I think if you're not planning on using the Sid as an anchor, I think that's probably a good swap, because the possibility to find those high-end ninja weapons still exists even without a lot of looting.
Eizan had gone down to Sylph Cave, triggering this event here in Fabul. Yang's wife Sheila is going to give a key item check. We're going to see key item checks on both screens really shortly here.
This is exciting.
Ooh, a legend sword. That's pretty big on Eizan's side.
Also big, the darkness crystal.
Wow.
Two high value checks, legend sword being half of that first objective. So we are now, Eizan's now one key item out of a choice of two from go mode, and Peasants has access to the moon and Aroma, so Eizan still needs that Z access to complete the go mode along with whatever other key item he might find.
So now Eizan going back to the underground. Looks like it's going to be Dwarf Castle. So Eizan's going to be able to get that Darkness Crystal very shortly. Meanwhile, Peasant's heading to the tower. Going to be fighting that Dark Knight Cecil up at the top. We'll see if he wants to do anything. Having Edge in the party means that you can steal extra sirens from the alerts in here. With money being as tight as it is, that might be a way if you feel like if he feels like he needs to get a few more sirens, that's a way that he can do it now that he's got Edge in the party. But looks like he's skipping the chest for now, just going to go right up to the top and fight that Dark Knight Cecil.
I spotted 5 in his inventory. I wonder how many he wants. 5 is a great number if you're doing, say, a moon grind and you have 10 key items. Yeah. That's going to get you exactly where you need to go. But if you need to do a lower level or grind with eggs, then you probably want more. Peasants might wait to see what this check is before committing one way or the other.
And another thing is, like, if Peasants completes the tower, you can always go back in the tower later and steal them if you need to. Because if it turns out that you need to get that D mist down, you might want to do that. But actually, we've got access to the moon. 5 sirens is probably plenty.
Yep. Morpheus in chat pointing out a little earlier that the Edge makes that D-Mist a little nicer because Edge can dart, and we do at least have those, I think, one lightsaber on Peasant's side. I don't know if he got that second one that we saw. I don't think he did, actually. That was from Eblin.
Yeah, I think Eizan was the only one who got that one.
Yeah, it's just nice to be able to do big chunks of damage at once, and usually dart will let you do that, especially if Edge gets a few more levels.
And now you can see the non-threat that Dark Knight Cecil is up at the top of the tower. All 4 of the characters able to tank all 3 hits. So pretty easily taken care of. After that, Dark Knight Cecil talks about justice and goes away. That's about it. You see, Eizan not having access to nuke from Fusia on the team is going to have to fight all 4 of the elements. That's kind of the difference between the 2 runners. And Peasant's getting lucky again, finding that pan before going through the Sylph check the first time that Eizan saw. So this is going to be a lot more fruitful and save more time for Peasants. Things are falling his way at this part of the seed. There's still plenty of places to check, depending on how hidden that Adamant and that Pigtail are.
Yep, with Darkness, and we know the Sheila 1 check gives Legend. Peasants, of course, doesn't know that, but we know if that first check is Adamant, we know Peasants is in go mode. Having Darkness, Eizan's going to get through Dwarf Castle. We'll see if Eizan takes the Edge, and Eizan will then have the Darkness Crystal and basically be in the same spot, just without the pan. But yeah, these pan checks are going to be pretty big.
Eizan gave a quick no to the ninja, so not going to want that. And I think that might be part of the fact that, I mentioned a couple times, we didn't find a lot of ninja weapons. So we're able to outfit the crew that we have right now a little bit easier than going to switch up to an Edge at this point in time. But gives up the ability to use that Dark Command too. So that's the trade-off here.
Octomom easily slapping down a lot of Eizan's characters, but that back road Sid is only taking 1 damage a hit, so it might be a little bit slow. We'll see if Eizan's going to switch to lit arrows here, which hit the weakness of this. Nope, just going to go straight Ogre Axe, which I think is a good call, and we'll be able to get through this Octo that Sid is not affected.
now at the bottom of Sylph, once you hit Yang with the pan here, the Sylph is going to give a potential key item, and we're also going up from 1 to 2 key item checks back in Fabul. Getting that tower key, like the tower key, that is not the most, like, you just can't route that well because it's going to be like that. You're going to have to take 2 trips to the tower if you want to check that tower key.
And the Sylphs have a sense of humor. We can see that now. They squirreled it away, and then they put the pan up at the top. And Peasants doing a nice little trick here, saving at the tower just in case both these Sheila checks turn up nothing. We know I don't think he's going to be resetting because we know we're at least getting legend. But if he had double womped on that, he might have been tempted to reset and go right up tower.
So it's right back to Fabul now, and so Peasants is first going to get that same legend sword that we saw Eizan pick up, but is also going to be able to turn in the pan for a second item, and that's going to be the big mystery here. Peasants, of course, going to hope for the adamant or the pink tail. That's all. Those are the ones that we're laser focused on right now for our runners.
I'm wondering if he doesn't get them, is he going to be tempted Moon, Fey March? We now have a pass, which is not progression, but it does give you quick access to Z from the overworld. And we do know that if our runners go to the moon, they are going to have to come back because both objectives 1 and 3 require you to be on the planet to turn those in. So getting the pass there feels pretty nice.
EizanTayama now in the best town of the game, Tomra, whereas Peasants is... We basically have the world open to us at this point. We can check the tower key, especially on Peasant's side. We can check the tower key. We've got the 2 bosses in the Fey March. We've got the sealed cave available to us with Luca, and then everything on the moon. So there's so many options that our runners have, and any of those places could be either of the items that we need for Gobo.
Eizan picking up some hourglasses, going back for a few more very useful items. Anything without the boss bit. Any boss without the boss bit, and any of the things you might want a siren later on to get experience are susceptible to being stopped with the hourglass for very long periods of time. So very useful items to pick up.
Yeah, kind of depending on which support item you get, kind of can help you guide if you want to do gold dragons or if you want to do warlocks. Both of them very good fights for experience on the moon. Warlocks, it's kind of nice if you have mute bells, and if you have the hourglasses, the gold dragons become a lot easier as well.
Yeah, you don't want those gold dragons doing their business at you. They hit hard, they cast a lightning-based attack. We see Eizan, though, picking up his hovercraft and returning to Eblin Cave. Probably going to pick up some more sirens, maybe Bacchus. We'll see what he goes for.
The Odin in the tower key room was a bit tougher than Peasants was originally hoping, but getting that vampire to both heal Fusia and finish off Odin was enough to get it done. So the fight is concluded. We won't get the key item check until Peasants leaves the tower.
Yeah, who would think 5 minutes from the 1 hour mark of vampire would be that important?
I mean, that kind of depends on what strategy you use against Diramis too, right?
That is true. I would guess we're not going to see any of those strategies that require a low level. Not in this race tonight.
Not tonight, but it is enough to say that there is a strategy for a low-level fight against Diramis that involves using a lot of vampires. Check that out. More information in the Discord if you want to do it. We're not going to get into it right now, but it is a cool strategy.
We got Eizan raising the whale. Yeah, might be an immediate moon trip.
So going to be bypassing a lot of what Peasants did, but that might not be that bad because through all this stuff that Peasants has done extra, he still hasn't found either of the items that are important for completing the objectives numbers 1 or 3. So they're really in the same spot, despite the fact that Peasants has a few more checks under his belt. All of that tower and pan didn't add up to anything more for him.
Except for that pass. I mean, if these runners, let's say they take the same path and they end up at the same key item at the same time, that could prove to be meaningful. But you're right. We of course did not get go mode from those checks, so we'll see the decisions the runners make when they get up here. Will they go top down? Will they go to K value first? Eizan is going straight for the main area, and we'll see which character is up here on the moon.
Yeah, at this point, it's not technically the last, but it's one of the last kind of realistic places to really hope to get that Cecil to make use of that crystal sword. Because I imagine since you're already on the moon, you're going to be looking at grinding pretty soon, and you don't want to go and do another grind when you find Cecil at a spot like in Barrack or something like that later.
Speaking of which, folks in chat are pointing out there is a key item discrepancy here. You know, one has 8, one has 10. Yeah.
That is a paladin. That is a paladin.
We found someone to hold on to that crystal sword and swing it. Eizan is deciding who gets dropped. Goodbye, pal. Maybe.
This is a tough fight. And decides to go without magic in this. Well, I mean, I guess Tella has magic, but at this point, it's not the most impressive. Look at all this crystal gear he's got, too.
Hold on, I gotta put on my sunglasses. This is blinding.
Yeah, I like this move, too. Give all the power robe, give that Zeus gauntlet, give it all to Cecil. That's what it's going to do the most on him.
Eizan is stripping his team for parts and redistributing them, as you said, to the one who matters the most.
Well, Peasants now entering the Lunar Palace is going to have that opportunity to grab Cecil as well. I wonder if he ends up ditching that edge for Cecil, or if he goes with somebody else and wants to keep the ninja as well.
We don't have anything great for edge, that's true. What's Kane's best right now? The Ogre Axe?
Yeah, like Sid and Kane kind of jump between the Ogre Axe, Poison Axe, bow and arrows.
Yep, and there goes that edge. And I think we're going to see a similar stripping.
Oh, but running up against the inventory management sub-boss.
Yeah, it's funny how that SL0 flag, I mean, not only do you just not get money for selling things, but maybe some stuff just sits in your inventory a little bit longer if you're not diligent about getting rid of it, and then you have to, cost you a few seconds here to sort that out, make some space to do the equipment swap that you need to do. We see, we mentioned that back row glitch earlier. Peasants just did that to his Cecil by quickly swapping in bow and arrows. Important to do both, and then swapping them away for the much more important crystal sword.
Eizan ready to do the grind here. Got these, use the siren to summon these double King Ryus or gold dragons. And gonna keep Tella alive, at least for the beginning. I believe Tella is going to be used to cast the weak spell, because these King Ryus are susceptible to weak. That'll bring them down to the single digits, in which case any of the fighters can take them out easily, and whoever's behind them will throw a life potion on it. And what this does is, whenever you use the life potion or a life 1 spell, it'll revive whatever's being used on it with HP proportional to its vitality stat. All monsters have a vitality stat of 0, so it's raised with 0 HP and immediately dies again, but you do get experience credit for both of them. So what would be 60,000 experience in this fight is now 90,000 because of the life glitch. And it's going to be even better on Peasant's side, because Peasant's has the 10 key items. So as long as the life glitch goes here, this could be 180,000 experience in one fight.
Yep, both players getting tons of experience, but Peasant's getting exactly double a ton because of that 10 key item that you mentioned. And in addition to the pass, that's also pretty significant here. that Cecil is going to be a devastating melee machine as soon as this fight is over.
Now, Eizan also just took the one grind right there, I think just to get Cecil to like a stance where he's going to be able to do good. Now he's going to check these bosses and possibly get to that 10 key items before doing more grinding afterward.
Our runners took the same grind fight, but they took it in different locations. I'm anticipating then Peasants might then take the K Bahamut fight, so some pretty significant divergence here if either runner happens to find, you know, the thing that we need for go mode, because they are in different spots on the moon right now.
Now, Eizan checking the vanilla plague location. This would be the White Spear altar. Finding Leviathan here. It looks like these Ice 2s that Leviathan is throwing out are not too significant right here. So I think that bodes well for Eizan in this fight. This shouldn't be too problematic, especially now that we've got Berserk, Crystal Sword, Cecil.
Yeah, and Cecil getting pounded with those 200 to 300 damage Ice 2s. He can take it, and the damage he puts out with that Crystal Sword is going to be much, much higher than that.
Now, Tella taking himself out so that he doesn't get extra experience. When using a character as an anchor, you want their agility stat to be as low as possible, and so we don't want Tella to get too many extra levels and getting too much more agility. He's going to be more effective this way.
Peasants pretty clever here, checking this boss. A lot of runners might exit out and heal, but Peasants checks the boss, notices it is the Karate Man, a version of Yang. And there's a reason Peasants is confidently walking up to this fight. Why is that, Rex?
Well, it's another one of these fights that we kind of call a free fight. Not in this case because of being able to be susceptible to status effects, but this is a scripted fight in the vanilla game. In the vanilla game, once Yang kicks for the second time and you hit it with Paladin Cecil, he says, ouch, and that ends the fight. And that's the same here. Now, he's going to hit really hard before that happens. But EizanTayama's in go mode.
And there it is, that divergence paying off. Eizan making the right call. We're going to see what Eizan does from here on out. Are we going right back to the grind? Are we going to check Ribbon Room? Looks like we're heading to Ribbon Room.
Yeah, this is both a grind in itself, because even at just the 9 points, this is a lot, but doesn't want to sit through all the cutscenes there for Dr. Luge.
And we see Peasants getting an X-Cal, which is a great weapon, but if you have a Crystal Sword, you don't care too much about it, especially now that you don't have the edge anymore for darting purposes. So, yep, Eizan is going to head down. He's going to complete Objective 1, which will give him his 10th key item in the form of the Crystal, and then he'll be able to grind and go. Eizan just making the right call in terms of guessing on that White Spear altar.
Absolutely. That decision to go to Bahamut first on Peasants really let him down there. And it's like one of those things, if that had been Pink Tail there, then Peasants would be in a much better situation right now. But this is giving Eizan some time to catch up. There's still grinding that needs to be done on Eizan's side, and how much he's going to be able to do, I don't know. His money and his siren situation, I'm not sure of. Now that he's back on the blue planet, I imagine eggs are probably in order once that 10th key item, the crystal, is procured. But then, does he have enough eggs to do what's necessary? Probably, with going with a big physical assault like this. I also don't know how many Bacchuses he has in his inventory.
Yeah, it's useful to have those so you don't have to rely on your essentially your one Berserk caster. The Tella will be up for at least the first round of the Z fight, but probably not too much more than that. And even though Eizan is in go mode, Peasants still can. It's going to depend on the choices that Peasants makes. I was curious to see if Peasants would have gone true top down, going to the Morasame altar first, but he's skipping that. He is going down to the right area. We'll see if he goes directly to White Spear, if he goes to Ribbon first. But this is still a very close race.
Oh, actually, Eizan might not be going to do eggs, because he's got to go back to the moon anyway and walk down there, because he does not have the pass the Peasants has.
Looks like you're right. We're heading, well, A little bit of a reverse. Is there something that we're forgetting that we saw here?
The big ones, both the Bacchus and the Sirens, were in Evelyn. There were Star Veils in here, and life potions, I think. I wonder if Eizan didn't remember where they were. I know I often don't take notes because I'm lazy, and will forget which shop I need to go to. Maybe it's the hourglasses because I think they were down here.
But Eizan did pick up a lot of them, and I don't think he used that many. Yeah, obviously he doesn't want Star Veils, hourglasses, or life potions.
It might also be something else like Cure 3s that he's looking for, trying to remember if he even saw them.
Yeah, that's true. Right, Eizan does not have that Fusoya.
And so that means that you either have to grind up to a higher level, because you're probably going to have to survive the first Big Bang, which can probably pretty easily be nerfed, but then either leave one of your characters back to recover, or just get enough levels that you can tank a full power Big Bang.
Looks like Eizan giving up on the Earthbound shopping. We'll see if he peeks in at the Moon Shop. Meanwhile, Peasants is going through that Ribbon Room fight in the final form of the Dr. Luge fight. There's a chance that Pinktail's behind this, and that puts Peasants in go mode, but if not, I anticipate seeing Peasants going directly to White Spear and getting his own go mode pretty soon after that. Let's see if these Cure 3s are waiting on the moon. There they are. Good find for Eizan. Gonna buy 90 of them. Nope, can't afford it.
Okay, well, that means that one of the characters, probably Sid, will be left unberserked as a chemist to recover after Big Bangs. It's really nice to have a character like Sid in that role because he gets a very high HP pool as well, and he struggles a little bit on the damage because of his weapon draw in this part of the game. So he's really ideal to be used like that in this situation when you don't have a proper white mage to carry you.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but Eizan is also using Tela as the anchor, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Because that's nice. It's, when you have a curse ring chemist that they're not going to get the turns as quickly as you'd like. Just a magma key and was that crystal shield from Ribbon Room?
Yeah, not go mode yet, but Peasants is right next door to where we know the adamant is found.
I'm anticipating a fairly close finish here with Peasants having that pass. That's going to allow him to skip this moonwalk. Eizan's going to do a little more grinding. We'll see how, we said it at the beginning, Eizan knows he has to win this to continue on in this tournament, to have a chance to go to a game 3. We'll see how far Eizan wants to take this grind.
Yeah, and Peasants, with his grind, probably doesn't need a lot more, if anything, right now, because both having the Fusia on the team is going to help, because that Cure 4 is going to be effective from Fusia. And the levels that they're at right now, the extra bosses that were defeated, gives a little bit of an edge in the experience levels to Peasants here as well. So yeah, I agree. This is going to be a really close finish. This is going to be a really good race. That Peasants did a lot more checks, but Eizan made the right checks. And sometimes that's what really matters, right?
Yeah, you make that right call. You get that go mode item, in this case the Adamant Rock, on your first moon check. That's got to feel good. And here we go, Eizan going into his first double gold dragon gold fight, throwing out that hourglass. Peasants now getting the Adamant Rock, also in go mode. We're going to see an immediate exit. And I wonder. Okay, I was going to be very surprised if Peasants went to do any extra grinding. As you said, his Cecil is in the high 2,000 HP. and is going to be putting out so much damage with their Crystal Sword, the Power Shirt, the Zeus Gauntlet. We're going to be seeing like 6, 7, 8,000 damage swings, I think.
It's always surprising exactly how much damage Cecil could do in that Zeramis fight with the Crystal Sword and all this other good stuff attached.
Eizan Cecil only at right around 1,300 HP. He's a bunch more from this fight, but I think it's going to take, he's not going to be done after this one fight. It's just a question of how many.
Yeah, but now with the 10 key items, this is up to 180,000 experience per fight. So probably only 1 or 2 of these needed here. We'll see how many he wants to do in order to be comfortable. The lack of a white mage also means having to revive Tella after each fight and knock him down before it's done, because he needs to cast that Berserk from Tella, because you want to preserve those Bacchuses for the Zeramis fight.
Yep, that's true. And then we have to take down the Tella so Tella can remain that anchor. So a little bit of menuing required here, a little bit of forethought and planning.
Now, Peasants gets the crystal, only has to go over to Toria with that pass for the shortcut. I think Peasants is going to end up in the Z fight a little bit before Eizan. This is close.
Yeah, there's been discussion for a while if that Cecil got back road. We're seeing this Crystal Sword Cecil doing mid 2000s, mid 3s there. There's some thought that maybe that Cecil's not back road on Eizan's side.
It looks like Peasants did want a little bit more grinding. Gonna go and scramble some eggs here. That gives a little bit more time to Eizan here. And it looks like Eizan might be thinking that same thing as far as the back row was not happy with those numbers. You got to unequip it first before you can do the other things.
Or you could just simply move them to the front row. It's not going to matter too much.
There you go.
Yep. But I think for Eizan to have a shot, this absolutely has to be his last Siren. He, of course, does not have the knowledge we have. He does not know what Peasants is doing, what Peasants is doing right now. But this really has to be it. And I think Peasants still has the edge based on his levels and his team composition. So still going to be a close finish. But we'll see how where these runners end up.
Close finish. Peasants had a little bit of a lead throughout most of this seed. Eizan kind of turned it around a bit, but being behind in the grinding is costing him right now. It looks like Peasants, I think that defense sword was from Koval's shop, so his cane gets a serious upgrade here as well. And as Peasants is organizing everything for the final fight, I think it's time to ask an important question. Do you want to ask it tonight, Cords?
I would love to ask it. We got Z flags coming out. Those Z's, they stand for Zeromus. He's the end boss, and we're going to see that end boss throwing out his big bangs, which do tons of damage. We're going to see the script in action that these runners are very familiar with and will be battling against. However, we are not going to be seeing our vanilla Zeromus sprite. Instead, we're going to be seeing one of hundreds of possibilities of randomized artwork representing all sorts of different games and different things. There's even food products that we might see. So because we don't know who that is, the question is, whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
Absolutely, because it is butt time as we are there. Meanwhile, EizanTayama is down into the Lunar Core, just has a few more floors worth of walking, and both of our runners are going to be in the Zeramis fight at the same time. This has been an awesome race.
Why this randomizer is so great. When you have to do 4 out of 5, when it's an open world randomizer, different choices can lead you to the same spot, and both runners entering the final fight seconds apart from each other, both having the strongest character with the strongest weapon, but then some different party compositions, decisions were made along the way, and it's time to find out which one of these runners is going to be victorious tonight.
Yeah, Peasants has a couple of advantages in this fight, but I always say Zeramus is no joke. Something could go wrong, and if anything does go wrong, then EizanTayama is going to be right there to sneak in and do it. So this is going to be really important that Peasants executes this properly.
Ooh.
Nice Super Mario World looking Boo here.
And I believe that was a 7,000 damage swing from Cecil, so big damage. Neither of these fights is going to take too long, which does put this in Peasant's favor. He got to the fight first, his levels are slightly higher, and he has that Foo. Let's see if anything can stop him.
This race has just flown by, and so while we're in this fight, I do want to give a quick shout out to the Restream team. We've got Escorian on the Restream, and Alchemy doing a solid and jumping in at the last moment on tracking. So big shout outs to both of them for helping out tonight.
Shout out to you too, Rex. Been a lot of fun casting this very quick seed and competitive seed with you here tonight as we watch it wrap up.
Yeah, this has been exciting. I mean, I wouldn't expect any less in the quarterfinals of such a big event that we've had today. But I'm always happy when it ends up being a really close race like this.
See that big bang coming out on Peasant's side. I believe we're going to be left with two characters standing unless, yep, just Yang and Cecil are left up. That might be all you need.
Yeah, this is where it comes. I think the only thing that could be bad is if another big bang hits, but seeing those numbers from Cecil, it might be done before it happens.
We see a shake, which normally precedes the big bang, but there is the chance that if we push out enough damage, we skip right past it. But we do not in this case, so a big bang's gonna come out, a full power big bang. This race is not over yet on Peasant's side.
Yeah, now if it depends on where the Meteor comes.
This black hole could be useful. Yang has both have exited their Berserk phase, or they will after another turn, and Yang might be able to get some healing up, though that final attack of Meteor might be coming out. But no, that is the end. We skipped it right past it with all that damage being put out. Good game to Peasants. Peasants has won tonight and is moving on to the next round.
Yeah, with an official time of 1 hour, 19 minutes, and 11 seconds. Big GGs to Peasants. By making that play to get to do the package, was able to find Fusia, which gave him a big advantage with a lot of the fights, having access to nuke and everything early, and was able to take advantage of that and just do so many checks and just get the win today. Very well played by Peasants. Just well done.
Terrifically done. Yeah, that Foo's a pretty good character.
And we'll see if Peasants wants to come in for an interview.
I'd also like to offer GG's to EizanTayama, finishing the fight less than a minute after Peasants. So great job by Eizan as well. And I believe we're now joined by Peasants. Peasants, congratulations, GG, amazing finish, amazing race. How are you feeling right now?
Thank you, GG. I'm feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah, and we also have Microcore, since both of them finished so close together. We've got both of them here in the booth right now. So GG's to both of you. This was a great race. Eizan, give me your first thoughts about this race.
Apparently, I should have checked the package way early.
Yeah, we did say that it was really it was really fortunate for Peasants to pick up that Fusia that early in the seed. So yeah, that was part of the difference. Yes.
Hey, at least Yang did his best impression of a white mage.
So we saw that both of you in the Z fight, of course, within seconds of each other, finishing within a minute of each other. Peasants, were there any nerves near the end of that? You had two Berserk characters left. You ate a full power Big Bang. Were you pretty confident in just the sheer damage being put out that you'd get through that?
It should have been fine, but I instead of healing my party, I accidentally healed Zerimus, which caused a second nuke counter into a Big Bang, which hit my foot. So it was not good. I was not confident after that. I was doing so much damage, but my fear was it was going to go Big Bang directly into Meteor. But it went Big Bang into the black hole and then death. But it would have been Meteor the next hit, so it was very, very close to not being good at all.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of blinked and then I might have looked over at Eizan's screen for a moment and I came back and I saw Fusia was down and I'm like, I wonder what happened. Oh, well, I must have missed something. But yeah, a second nuke counter, that's unfortunate, but didn't even see one Meteo right at the end there, so that kind of helped out on that fight in the end.
Yeah, it definitely made me not die. I don't think I could have done it if Meteor hit. It would have been very, very close with Yang.
And another place where I thought was interesting, even though it didn't end up turning into anything too important, was in Dwarf Castle. You had the opportunity to pick up Edge. Peasants, you picked up Edge only to eventually ditch him for Cecil. And Eizan, you decided not to take the ninja. Both of you, what were your thoughts at that point?
Well,
oh, sorry, my bad. Eizan, you go.
I was gonna say I didn't have anything for him, so he didn't really seem worth taking at the time.
And then for me, like I picked him up because I already had an anchor, and Sid wasn't, I guess, necessary at that point. I think I got rid of Sid, and then but he was always going to be a placeholder if Cecil shows up, and if not, he could ditch a few things in the Z fight. But he wasn't going to be a very big important part of my game plan, no matter what happened.
I believe you picked up a ninja shirt in the Fey March. Is that right?
Yeah, but whatever.
Yeah, it would have let him stay alive a little bit in the Z fight, as you said, to darts and stuff, and maybe you could have lucked into finding a good blade for him through your checks. Speaking of checks, Eizan, I'm wondering how you did the conscious decision to go directly to White Spear and skipping Ribbon Room when you went down the moon.
Mainly because Bahamut was there last time, so I figured maybe it would be a good choice.
Indeed it was. That was a big moment. Peasants was in Cave Bahamut, picking up an Excal from that fight, and yeah, as soon as we saw you pick up that Adamant, we knew we were in for one heck of a finish. So yeah, that definitely worked out for you there.
And so Peasants, winning this 2-0 means that you're going on to the semifinals. What are your thoughts as far as, like, did you expect to go this far? What are you looking to see? What are your thoughts on advancing?
Did not expect to go this far. I'm very, very happy. This is my first top 4 in the tournament. My best has been a top 5. So I'm pretty happy. I think I've gone beyond my expectations at least, and I'm hoping to continue on. But the next race is going to be absurdly difficult, no matter what the outcome of Dusty and Phineas is going to be. I'm hoping Infinius wins so we can have a West Australian semi-finals. I think that'll be to see. The 2 West Australian players in the top 4 would be really, really cool. But
and Eizan,
sorry. No, it's all good. It's all good.
I was going to say, Eizan, thanks for letting us watch you, and GG's on your result in this, making it to the top 8 of this event. Unfortunately, this is going to be it for you. Just want to get your final thoughts about your experience in the Lali-Ho League right now.
It was one of the best tournaments I think I've played so far, because kind of got burned out in Zima Zone 3, but that didn't happen this time. So disappointed I don't get to face Dusty again, possibly. Maybe I'll see him in Zima Zone 4.
Yeah, there's that. Otherwise, there's ladder races. I know that the weekly community races will be coming back pretty soon as well. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities to race. I want to thank both of you for joining us tonight, and to thank you for letting us watch this really exciting close race tonight.
Yeah, thank you for the restream. I appreciate it. And GG to Eizan as well. Big fan of your work. I've been watching since Highway 1, so it's really cool to be able to race you again.
And GG's to you as well, Peasant.
Yep. Thank you to both of you for putting on such a great couple races for us, especially tonight being so darn close. And we really appreciate that. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too. Catch you later, guys.
All right, everybody, don't forget to follow both of these racers tonight, putting on a great show for us. I also want to give one last shout out to our Restream team, Escorian on the Restream and Alchemy on the tracking. If they aren't here, we don't have a show, and we love to make sure that there's a show. I also want to give a thank you to my co-commentator tonight, Microchords. This is the first time we've worked together, and I think we had a really fun night tonight. This was great.
I really enjoyed it. I'm going to send all that praise right back your way, too. Really, yeah, we had a great race to watch. We had the perfect seat to see it, and I really enjoyed that. I believe we're done with official races tonight, but don't go anywhere. We will be rating a community member, Rex Banner, who did quite well in this tournament as well. And you mentioned the ladder earlier. I've been having tons of fun on the ladder, as have many people. So if you're interested in just getting some free enterprise competition in a different format, I recommend you join up on the ladder, or at least look into it. And the reason I bring that up is Rex Banner is trying a flag set that is a throwback to Zima Zone 1 with some modifications for our modern settings. And it's going to be included in the upcoming, I think only a week or two away, Season 2 of the ladder. So Rex is a great runner. Rex is a great streamer. You'll enjoy his stream, and you might get to see him playing a tricky flag set. So go say hi to Rex. Don't spoil the race for him. It was so close. Tell him that he should go watch it later, but don't spoil the result.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.